What's up, guys? It's Lefty here, and I'm excited about this one. We got Thanksgiving week, the best regular season week of football. I'm going to break down 4 games in this video, the 3 Turkey Day games on Thursday, and then the Black Friday game, and go over bets I already have locked in. Now, as always, for access to all the bets I personally make, including player props and also bets I share made by my network of pro betting groups, I call these source plays. They can all be found inside the Betting Network Discord community, along with other helpful betting educational stuff. Invite link to join the Discord is in my bio or the description below this video. You can join for free as a basic member or become a pro member. It costs $50 for 90 days. That's 90 days the day you join. And it'll get you full access to all the channels, features, and betting tools. Okay, there's a lot to discuss with these games. Let's not waste any more time. We start Thanksgiving off with the 12:30 game, the NFC Norris Division Showdown, Bears-Lions. Right off the bat, first thing I notice is we have a quad D here. I talked about this in last week's video. Quad D, or double-digit divisional dog. These spots are rare. Last week with Dallas Cowboys, that was the first double-digit divisional dog of the season, and Dallas actually won outright. Now we happen to have 2 in Week 13, which I'll discuss the other one shortly. Lions have won 9 in a row and have done it in dominating fashion. I could list a bunch of different stat margins to show how dominant they've been in those wins, but just look at these final scores. It's all you need to see. During this 9-week win stretch, only 3 games have been decided by single digits. Lions have the best point differential in the league by far at plus 159. Now, what happens when you have a team dominating like this? Sportsbooks start getting buried with Lions money week after week. When there's a team that's winning and covering like this, that bettors can rely on to not let their foot off the pedal in the second half, bettors start to trust teams like this and continue to bet them. The result is the sportsbooks are forced to try and price them at a point where it at least makes some bettors think twice about blindly betting that team, especially like on prime time standalone games like Thanksgiving here, where the public action is going to increase. They know everyone's going to be on the Lions, and we can see the sports books opened Lions 11.5. But what's interesting here is, despite the Lions being huge public favorites that's receiving lopsided bets, the line's moving the other way. It's down as low as 10 at some sports books, and this is a clear sign that sharp bettors, or the ones that get respect from odds makers, they're placing bets on Chicago, and I agree with that side, and I bet the Bears plus 10.5, and the truth is you're never going to find value betting on teams like Detroit right now. Their price is just too inflated. The odds makers know the true line should be around 9 or 9.5, but if they made the line that, it wouldn't attract any Bears action. I know I wouldn't be on the Bears at anything less than 10 points. Now, could Detroit come out and win by 30 like they've been doing? Absolutely. But I can't predict the future, and that's not what I'm trying to do when placing bets. It's too hard to try and predict what's going to happen on the field with all these variables, refs calls, flukes plays. All I'm trying to do is bet teams that I think are a little mispriced. Of course, I think Detroit is the better team and deserves to be favorites, but 10.5 points is just a little too much in my opinion. For anyone who listened to my Lions-Colts game preview last week, I talked about how banged up the Lions' defense is after losing Alex Anzalone, the defensive captain, and Green Dot. I thought it might show itself last week against the Colts, but Indy just didn't play a clean game. They had 10 penalties. A couple of them took big gains off the board. 0-2 in the red zone. A lot of dropped passes by Colts receivers. Colts just couldn't take advantage of the Lions' injuries. And for some of the same reasons I liked the Colts last week, I didn't actually bet the Colts, but for reasons why I liked them last week is similar reasons why I like the Bears this week. One of them being Caleb Williams' increase in rush attempts since Thomas Brown has taken over as offensive coordinator and play caller for the Bears. There's been more emphasis on Caleb Williams using his legs, and we know the Lions' defense under Aaron Glenn has been vulnerable against the quarterback run game. Lions secondary, all banged up. They lost cornerback Enos Rakeshaw Jr. to IR last week, and if Cornerback Carlton Davis, who's listed as questionable now, doesn't go. I think we see a big game from DJ Moore. Lions, even when healthy in their defensive backfield, have allowed some big games to opposing wide receiver ones. And Caleb Williams has been making some big plays with his arm, too. So I also think the Lions' game plan here favors a more closely contested battle. I think Detroit goes really run heavy. 3 weeks ago, the Bears lost their main run stuffer up front, nose tackle Andrew Billings, to IR with a torn pec. Since then, the Bears have allowed almost 400 rushing yards in just 3 games that Billings has missed. Lions running back David Montgomery has been listed on the injury report, but can't imagine he misses this game against his former team. These guys love to stick it to their former clubs in a revenge angle spot, especially under Dan Campbell, Lions head coach, who's a former player himself. He brings up this revenge angle stuff all the time, not just with Montgomery, but other players on his team when they're facing their former teams. It's almost like he uses that as like a motivational angle. Heavy run game by Detroit isn't really what you'd want if you're backing Detroit to cover double digits either. You know, this is a tough bet, but I'm pulling the trigger on the Bears. They've lost 5 straight. 3 of those have been decided in the final play of the game. Bears have a 5-18 record on single score outcomes in the Eberflus era. I won't get into how I feel about single score outcomes. Most of you already know, but at least I know we're going to get a motivated max effort here from Chicago. They're essentially in a do-or-die spot. An 8th loss would probably end their season. History's also on the Bears' side, if you believe in that stuff. This has been a very closely contested line series. Not many lopsided final outcomes. The last time there was even a double-digit spread for either team was back in 2008, I believe. So give me the Bears here. All right, next game up, we got another divisional game between the G-Men and Cowboys. This would probably be a good time to go and eat when this game starts. 2 real shit-bum teams. This is the only game on Thanksgiving that had any real line movement on both the spread and total, at least as of this recording. I'm doing this recording on Wednesday morning, very early. And yeah, this Giants in Dallas, as you can see, it's been all Cowboys money on the opener, which turned 2.5s into 3s, and by Monday morning it was Cowboys 4s. And that's when we saw a little resistance with some Giants money come in. In fact, this number got to Dallas -4. It's kind of crazy. Dallas hasn't won a home game, and that kind of tells you what the market thinks of the Giants right now. This Giants team is really in shambles after last week's 30-7 loss to the Bucks. Post-game player quotes were not good. A lot of finger pointing and blaming. Rookie stud wide receiver Malik Neighbors, he got 0 targets in the first 3 quarters last week, or the first half, I think. He had a lot to say about that after the game, which whenever a number 1 wide receiver starts complaining to the media or makes noise about not getting the ball, I immediately look to bet his overs the following week, either over yards or over receptions. It's referred to as the squeaky wheel narrative. A player complains about targets or usage. Coach or owner wants to keep him happy and forces the ball to him next game. I bet over first quarter receiving yards for Neighbors at 10 or more yards. -140 juice should still be available depending on when I get this video up. Or 15 plus yards you can get at plus money. I don't even know who's going to be the Giants quarterback at this point, but regardless of who is out there, they're going to want to keep Neighbors on their side and happy, whether it's DeVito or Locke. Going into last week's games, based on my power ratings, I had both the Giants and Cowboys rated bottom 3 in the league, with the Panthers sandwiched in between. Giants as 7 points below a league average team, and Dallas 8.4 points worse than a league average team. The Cowboys played good enough to deserve a bump up in the ratings after a win as a double-digit dog in a game where they had over $100 million in player contracts sitting out that game. You could argue the Panthers, who played KC tough and lost by only 3 points, also deserve a bump up. of these three bottom three teams, the Giants are the only ones that deserve to be bumped down. And I never like to make big adjustments based on one game, but let's just say we'll make a half-point adjustment down for New York and up for Dallas. We have a matchup now between the two worst teams in the league, or at least two of the worst power-rated teams in the league. But my point here is both teams are very close in ratings. The Giants are roughly a half point better if this game was played on a neutral field, but it is in Dallas, so we give Dallas a home field advantage bump, even though they haven't won a home game since December of last year. Let's still give them 1 point, which would now make Dallas favorites of a half a point. I can get the Giants at plus 3.5 now. That's a full field goal of value. Last time I had 3 or more points of value based on my numbers versus the sportsbook's numbers was last week with the Titans, and they won outright. So I did bet the Giants plus 3.5, and this was a tougher bet to make than the Bears bet. And keep in mind, we're giving Dallas a bump up for their win last week, and a ton went right for them last week. Dallas in the first half. These were the results of their first half drives last week. Blocked field goal, missed field goal, fumble, punt 3 times, and then field goal. I don't think they're going to pull 2 special teams touchdowns out again this week. If I knew Drew Lock was starting, it'd be a much easier bet for me to bet the Giants, but I'm still not sure who's going to be the starter. Giants head coach Brian Daboll said he's hopeful DeVito is good to go and will be the starter if he's healthy. DeVito took a big hit last game, briefly left the game. If he's unable to go, it's going to be Drew Lock to start, which this line was 2.5 on the look-ahead with Drew Lock assumed to be the starter. It wasn't until DeVito was shockingly named the Week 12 starter. That's when this line went to 3 and 3.5. So my hope is that for some reason Lock is named the starter, and think we see this line go back down below 3, which is where the look-ahead line was. I think everyone thinks Lock is better than DeVito, but then again, the Giants losing last week and looking bad really wasn't DeVito's fault. The whole team just quit. Defense, took the day off, 0 sacks, allowed 4 touchdowns on 5 red zone attempts. The offensive line played 3 quarters with a third-string tackle and a third-string guard, too. Daboll's been trying to coach around this QB issue by going more run-heavy. This might not be bad versus Dallas's run defense. And, Dallas still has a lot of big players on the injury list, too, including Cooper Rush, who's banged up still. He'll probably play, but Jake Ferguson, Brandon Cooks, Deron Bland, Zach Martin, Trey Diggs, these guys are all very questionable as of this recording. Again, early Wednesday morning. Can't believe I'm going to bet the Giants. This is a team where the entire staff is going to be fired at some point. If this wasn't a Thanksgiving Day game, it'd be a clear pass for me, but I want to give everyone an opinion, and I want to bet all 3 games too. There's been all under money in this game so far too. All right, let's move along. Thanksgiving nightcap. We should all be good and buzzed by this point. And as tough as the 2 earlier games were to bet, this is actually a tough game to bet because both teams are motivated. Miami with a chance to get to 500 and keep their season alive. And then you have Green Bay, a team that's really confident right now, showing a lot of chemistry and players that have bought in. Now, for anyone who watched last week's Thursday night game preview I talked about how it's always good to keep one eye on next week's games. And for that example, I talked about this very game here between Miami and Green Bay and how it's worth paying attention to because of the situation. Miami being a warm weather team playing outdoors in the cold. You're going to hear this angle just beat to death, too, leading up to the game. Everyone knows Tua has struggled his whole career playing in colder conditions, but where's the line movement if this matters so much? It's not like the odds makers didn't already know Tua and Miami don't perform optimal in cold conditions, and it was expected to be cold when they priced the game. My point about keeping an eye on this game was for any changes in weather, like wind or snow, but at this price point, I think there could be some value on Miami. And what's interesting is you didn't always give Miami this huge bump down when playing in the cold. This only started to be a thing like in the past season or two. It's not like every time Miami went to Buffalo or New England, you drop them down in ratings. Um, at least not to the extent they're being treated now, especially after that KC cold weather playoff game there. All off season, the Dolphins have put emphasis on improving the ground game for games like this to take the pressure off of Tua in these cold weather games, and this happens to be where you want to attack this Packers defense is on the ground. I think the cold weather negative narrative for Miami and Tua and this offense is overblown and they'll exceed expectations. But where I am concerned is on the other side of the ball. Can Miami stop Jacobs and the run game of Green Bay? Um, Especially with Dolphins linebacker Anthony Walker now being doubtful. He's by far their best run stopper. He left the game last week versus the Patriots with a hamstring injury. At that point in the game, Miami was leading by such a good amount that we never actually got to see what the Dolphins' run defense looks like without Walker. But Packers head coach Matt LaFleur will definitely test this Miami run defense and will attack that void left by the absence of Walker, too, and pound the ball with Jacobs. LaFleur is super underrated when it comes to drawing up game plans involving the run game, and he just loves to feed Jacobs as it is. I think both teams are going to have success running the ball. Packers still without Jair Alexander, and I just think Miami plus 3.5 is the right side. Tua, since he's returned, 11 TDs, 1 INT, with scoring outputs of 27, 27, 23, 24, and 33 in the 5 games since he's been back. Give me the Dolphins here, plus 3.5. Slight lean towards the over, too. Okay, hopefully some of you are still with me here. I always wonder if it's better to do shorter videos on individual games or longer videos with multiple games in one video. It doesn't seem to matter with views. I still get like only 40 views, but I wonder which is preferred. Maybe let me know in the comments section. All right, Black Friday game, another divisional matchup, and another quadruple D. But this is a quad D I'm not sure I can get behind. Raiders quarterback Gardner Minshew goes down with broken collarbone. He's done for the season. This look-ahead line was 12.5 when it was expected Minshew would still be the starter. And then it also opens 12.5. So the odds maker saying there's no difference between Minshew to either of these potential starters for Las Vegas. I mean, Aiden O'Connell just came off of IR with a broken thumb he suffered in Week 7. Reports like less than 2 weeks ago where his thumb was healed, but his grip strength didn't allow him to grip the ball. And this is not exactly an ideal spot for O'Connell to make his first start back, after just returning to practice, especially on a short week, on the road in Arrowhead Stadium, freezing temps. Actually, the fact that they're considering starting him is kind of crazy. Imagine how that must feel to be Desmond Ridder. You're fully healthy, and they're considering a guy who can't even grip the ball. Can't be good for Ridder's confidence there, but not sure at this point if it's O'Connell or Ridder. We'll probably find out later today. Ridder, in his post-game presser last week, said he's been with the team over a month. He knows the offense, and he's ready to lead the team, but no chance he would beat KC. Even though this is a Chiefs pass defense that has really declined the last half of the season. They've went from top 10 pass defense to below league average. So attacking KC through the air is the pathway to success. Raiders don't have a QB for that, and beating KC on the ground isn't something any teams have had luck doing. Unfortunately for the Raiders, they have no running game at all. Raiders can't run it when they have a healthy backfield. Now with Alexander Madison and Zaire White banged up, they have no shot. This all seems like betting KC would be easy, right? Well, not so fast because they don't beat teams by margin. KC has 5 wins this season that were decided in the final 60 seconds of the game. 8 of their 10 wins have all been decided by a single score, and now you're asking them to win by 12 points in a divisional matchup. Extremely tough to lay big spreads with a team like this that doesn't win by margin, so betting the Raiders seems easy, right? I mean, it's a quadruple D, but the Raiders don't have a quarterback, and they happen to have the worst turnover differential in the league. at -17. They've turned the ball over the most in the league with 22 turnovers, but they have the fewest takeaways in the league at only 5. I always say the team that wins a turnover battle, or show me the team that wins a turnover battle, and I'll show you the team that covers the spread. Raiders aren't winning many turnover battles. I'm going to do something I think I've never done here before, and that's bet a double-digit divisional favorite. I can count on one hand how many times I've bet double-digit favorites in the NFL, but I've never bet a double-digit divisional favorite. This is going to be a play on KC just as much as a play against Las Vegas, who have now lost 7 straight. Raiders played last week's game without 9 Week 1 starters. KC's going to get back Isaiah Pacheco. Mahomes' post-game press conference was interesting last week. After another buzzer-beater win, he talked about how he'd love to win a game that wasn't in the final seconds and how it'd be nice to win comfortably. And they can't keep playing with fire with these close games because it can go either direction. Well, no better team, in my opinion, than the Raiders to blow them out, a team they hate. Raiders may have dug their own grave here, too, with trolling of Mahomes and that Kermit the Frog video. Mahomes took the high road, and when asked about it, he alluded to how, hey, they have to see us twice a year. This is a team KC won't let their foots off the gas, I think. Raiders really banged up in the secondary, just allowed Bo Nix to have his best game of the year. Mahomes with revenge on his mind should do numbers, and I think they look to run it up here. So Chiefs -12.5. I have all my bets, sides, and totals and player props posted in the Discord. Remember, sports betting's hard. Why do it alone? Join the betting network and let's work together to try to make more well-informed bets. The invite link is in my bio or the description below this video. That's it for this one. Until next time, good luck with your bets.